People got this thing twisted when it comes to intimacy. Most folks out here think intimacy is all about the physical side, all about what happens behind closed doors in the dark with the lights off. But let me break it down to you straight. Real intimacy, the kind that makes a relationship last, the kind that makes two people feel like they can't be shaken no matter what storm comes their way, that intimacy don't start in the bedroom. It starts in the everyday little things, the things you might overlook, the stuff that seems small but is actually powerful. Because I'm telling you right now, if sex is the only thing holding two people together, that relationship is weak. It's paper thin. The moment life throws something at you, and it will, you'll find out you don't have nothing to stand on. But when you learn to build a connection deeper than the physical, when you put effort into those small acts that say, I see you, I hear you, I respect you, then you got something real. You got something that lasts. Now, the first way you build that is simple but hard at the same time. Listening. And I ain't talking about hearing words just to get your turn to talk. I'm talking about really listening. Too many people don't know how to do that. You in a conversation, your partner's telling you about their day, and you scrolling on your phone, nodding your head, pretending you care. That ain't intimacy. That's distraction. When you really care, you put that phone down. You turn your face toward them. You look at them while they're talking. You give them your attention, your presence. And when they're finished, you respond in a way that shows you understood. Sometimes it's repeating back what they said. Sometimes it's asking the right question. Sometimes it's just nodding and saying, I got you. I hear you. That makes a person feel seen. That makes them feel like their voice matters. And that, believe me, that right there builds intimacy deeper than any kiss ever could. Because when somebody knows you're willing to listen, they trust you with their thoughts, with their feelings, with their heart. And once trust is there, intimacy has a home to grow. See, people don't realize how powerful listening is. You want to know why some folks run to their friends, their co-workers, even strangers online. It's not because they want somebody better looking. It's not because they want somebody richer. It's because they want somebody who listens. Somebody who makes them feel like their story is worth telling. So if you want to keep intimacy alive, you got to be that person. You got to create that safe space. And that starts with shutting your mouth sometimes and opening your ears. Real simple, but life-changing. Now let's talk about appreciation, because here's another one people neglect. Everybody wants to feel appreciated. Everybody. I don't care how long you've been together. 5 months, 5 years, 50 years. It doesn't matter. If you don't feel appreciated, eventually you start pulling back. Appreciation is fuel. It keeps the heart soft. It keeps the connection alive. But the thing is, appreciation ain't always about grand gestures. You don't have to come home every night with roses or jewelry. Appreciation lives in the small, consistent words. Saying thank you when they cook, even if it's just scrambled eggs. Saying, I love how hard you work. When they get up early. Saying, I'm proud of you. When they chase their dream, even if it's just a small step. Those little words keep intimacy alive because they let the other person know, I see what you're doing, and it matters to me. I remember one time I was talking to a woman after one of my shows, and she said, Steve, I've been married 20 years, and my husband ain't never told me thank you for the little things. He thinks because I'm his wife, I'm supposed to do it all. But I don't want diamonds. I don't want vacations. I just want to hear him say he notices me. And that stuck with me. Because sometimes the thing your partner is starving for ain't material. It's acknowledgement. So if you want to build intimacy, you got to speak it. Don't assume they know. Say it. Make them feel seen. That's what keeps the connection strong. Then you got acts of service. Now, let me tell you, people underestimate how powerful this one is. Acts of service is just a fancy way of saying, I'm going to do something to make your life a little easier. And it don't have to be something big. It could be as simple as bringing them coffee the way they like it, pumping gas in their car so they don't have to fold in the laundry without being asked, handling that one thing they hate doing so they can relax. That's intimacy right there. Because what you're saying with your actions is, I see what you need and I care enough to meet it. And sometimes doing that little act of service says more than any love poem, more than any text message with 100 heart emojis, because action always speaks louder than words. You could tell somebody, I love you, all day, but when they see you showing up in small ways, when they see you easing their burden, that's when they feel love. Now let's move to something simple but powerful: eye contact and touch. Listen, intimacy don't always have to be sexual touch. Sometimes it's the way you hold their hand when you're walking into the grocery store. Sometimes it's rubbing their shoulder when you know they had a long day. Sometimes it's just sitting next to them on the couch with your knee touching theirs. That quiet, non-sexual touch creates safety. It says, I'm here. I'm close. I want to be near you. And don't underestimate eye contact. Do you know how powerful it is to look somebody in the eyes when they're speaking? Not glancing, not looking past them, but looking straight at them with full attention. That's intimacy, because we live in a world where everybody's distracted, everybody's rushing. But when you give somebody your eyes, you give them your presence. And that says more than words can say. It says, you got all of me right now. And that, my friend, is intimacy without even touching. And lastly, let's talk about shared moments, because intimacy is built in those small, consistent memories you create together. It don't always have to be a fancy trip, a dinner reservation, or some big romantic surprise. Sometimes intimacy is laughing at the same silly joke nobody else would find funny. Sometimes it's cooking together and messing up the recipe, but laughing through it anyway. Sometimes it's sitting on the porch in silence watching the sunset. Sometimes it's praying together, dreaming together, planning together. Those shared moments become glue. They bond you in ways nothing else can, because intimacy ain't always about words, and it ain't always about touch. It's about being in the same space, at the same time fully present, and creating something only the two of you share. That's what builds a relationship that lasts. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is thinking once they got somebody, once they said, I love you, or stood at the altar and said, I do, then that's it. They feel like the work is over. They think their partner already knows how they feel, so they stop saying it, stop showing it, stop appreciating the little things. But let me tell you something. Love that isn't watered dies. A relationship that isn't fed dries up. You don't stop appreciating somebody just because you already have them. In fact, that's when appreciation becomes more important, because it's appreciation that keeps intimacy alive when the fireworks fade. Now, here's the truth. Every single person walking this earth wants to feel appreciated. I don't care how tough they act. I don't care how independent they seem. Everybody wants to know their effort matters. And when you don't feel appreciated, when all the things you do get taken for granted, you start to feel invisible. And once somebody starts feeling invisible, they start pulling back. They stop giving their all. They stop being open. They stop putting in effort. Why? Because what's the point of pouring into somebody who doesn't even notice? Appreciation is like oxygen. It's invisible, but when it's missing, you suffocate. See, people confuse appreciation with gifts or big romantic gestures. They think, well, I buy flowers every now and then. I took them out for dinner last month, so they should know I care. Nah, that's not it. Appreciation lives in the everyday words and actions. It's saying, thank you for cooking dinner, even if it's the same meal you've had 100 times. It's saying, I noticed how hard you've been working. When you see your partner grinding day after day, it's telling them, you look beautiful this morning, or I'm proud of you. Even when it's for something small. That's appreciation. It's not about waiting for a birthday or anniversary. It's about building a daily habit of acknowledgement. And let me tell you, women especially need this, because women often carry a lot of the invisible load in a relationship. She's cooking, cleaning, making sure the kids are okay, paying attention to every little detail that keeps the family running smooth. And too many times, men take that for granted. They act like it's automatic, like it's her job. But when you don't acknowledge it, when you don't show gratitude, she starts feeling unvalued. She starts questioning if you even notice her anymore. And that's dangerous, because when a woman feels unappreciated long enough, she shuts down emotionally. And once she shuts down, it's hard to get her back. But it goes both ways. Men need appreciation too. A lot of women don't realize that. Men may not always say it, but they want to feel valued. A man that works hard every day, busting his back to provide, he needs to hear, I see you. I appreciate what you're doing for us. A man that fixes things around the house, a man that tries to protect and provide, he doesn't want that to be overlooked. When a man feels like nothing he does is enough, When he feels like he can't win, that's when he pulls back. That's when he starts questioning his role. Appreciation keeps both partners connected. Now here's something I learned the hard way. You can't just assume your partner knows you appreciate them. You got to say it. You got to show it. Don't walk around with unspoken gratitude, because unspoken gratitude is the same as no gratitude at all. You might think, well, they should know I'm thankful. No, they don't. People can't read your mind. They need to hear it. They need to feel it. And when you consistently appreciate your partner, you're feeding intimacy. You're saying, you're not just here filling a role. You matter to me. Think about how it feels when a stranger says, thank you. You hold the door open for somebody and they say, thanks. Feels good, right? Now imagine you've been cooking for your family for years and your spouse never once says, thank you. You think that don't hurt. You think that doesn't chip away at love little by little. See, when you stop appreciating, you start breeding resentment. But when you do appreciate, you build closeness. You build safety. You build intimacy without even touching. Let me give you an example. Imagine your partner comes home from work tired, stressed, but they still get up and wash the dishes so you don't have to. Now, you could ignore it, act like it's normal, go on with your night. Or you could stop and say, hey, I saw what you did, and I really appreciate it. That one sentence can shift the whole mood. It can turn a chore into an act of love. It can make them feel valued instead of used. And that feeling creates intimacy. Appreciation also strengthens attraction. You ever notice how people light up when somebody compliments them? That glow they get, that smile, that confidence. That's what happens in a relationship when you consistently appreciate your partner. You remind them of their worth. You remind them why they're special. And when somebody feels special, they want to pour even more into the relationship. It becomes a cycle. Appreciation fuels love, and love fuels appreciation. Now don't get it twisted. Appreciation ain't just about words. It's about actions too. Sometimes it's writing a little note and leaving it on the counter. Sometimes it's sending a text in the middle of the day saying, thinking about you, thank you for everything you do. Sometimes it's giving a hug and holding it a little longer without saying a word, just to show gratitude. Actions of appreciation don't have to be expensive. They just have to be thoughtful. And when they're consistent, they build intimacy deeper than anything physical. The problem is too many people get comfortable. They think, well, we've been together a long time, so I don't have to do all that anymore. Wrong. The longer you're together, the more important appreciation becomes. Because in the beginning, love is loud. It's new, it's exciting, it's fireworks. But as time goes on, love gets quieter. And if you don't feed it, if you don't appreciate it, it starts to fade. Appreciation is what keeps the fire burning in the quiet seasons. It's what reminds your partner that even though the butterflies may not be as wild as they were in the beginning, the respect and gratitude are still strong. And here's the thing, appreciation builds respect. And respect is the backbone of intimacy. You can't have deep connection with somebody you don't respect. And appreciation is how you show that respect daily. It's how you say, I don't take you for granted. I see your effort. I honor what you bring to my life. That's intimacy. That's closeness. That's love in action. So what I'm telling you is simple. If you want a deeper bond with your partner, if you want intimacy that lasts beyond the physical, learn the power of appreciation. Say it, show it, live it. Don't wait for big moments. Appreciate the small ones, because it's the small words, the small acknowledgments, the small daily acts that build the kind of intimacy that keeps love strong for a lifetime. Let me tell you something a lot of people miss when it comes to building intimacy: acts of service. Now, I know that sounds fancy, but it really just means doing something big or small that shows your partner you care enough to make their life a little easier. See, intimacy ain't always built in big moments. It's built in those small intentional actions that say, I see you, I value you, and I'm here with you. And what makes this so powerful is it doesn't always require money. It doesn't require grand gestures. It just requires effort. And when somebody sees you making effort for them, effort that you didn't have to make, that's where intimacy grows. A lot of times we underestimate the power of simple service. We think love is about saying the right words or buying the right gifts, but the truth is, love is proven by action. You can tell somebody you love them 1,000 times, but if they never see it in your behavior, those words don't stick. But when you show up in little ways, when you cook their favorite meal without being asked, when you take care of something they were dreading, when you fill their car with gas so they don't have to stop on the way to work, that action speaks louder than any "I love you" ever could. And those are the moments that build intimacy without sex. See, acts of service are not about being somebody's servant. Don't confuse the two. It's not about losing yourself or being controlled. It's about saying, "I love you enough to lighten your load. I love you enough to make this day a little easier for you." And when both people in a relationship practice this, that's when the bond gets unshakable. Because each person feels cared for, each person feels supported, and nobody feels alone in the struggle. And intimacy thrives when people feel they're on the same team. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman comes home from a long day of work, and she's exhausted. The sink is full of dishes, the kids are running around, and her husband is sitting on the couch saying, "Baby, I love you." Now those words sound nice, but in that moment, love looks like getting up and washing those dishes. Love looks like helping with the kids so she can breathe for a second. Love looks like action, because action proves love. And when she sees that, she doesn't just hear words, she feels valued. She feels understood. That builds intimacy. And it works the other way too. Imagine a man out here grinding, working long hours, carrying the pressure of providing for his family. He comes home tired, maybe even discouraged. Now his wife could say, "I appreciate you," and that's beautiful. But if she makes his plate, or sets out his clothes for the morning, or just takes the time to rub his shoulders because she knows he's stressed, that little act of service goes a long way. It tells him, "I see how hard you're working, and I'm not going to let you carry it all alone." That right there builds intimacy that no amount of physical passion can compete with. Because intimacy isn't just about bodies, it's about souls feeling safe together. Acts of service also show attentiveness. They show that you're paying attention to your partner's needs, their likes, their dislikes, their stress points. It says you notice what's important to them. And when somebody feels noticed, they feel loved. Because being seen is one of the deepest human needs. When your partner realizes you remembered how they like their coffee, or you noticed they were too tired to cook so you stepped in, that creates a bond. That tells them, "You're not just here filling space. You matter enough for me to act on what I see." The mistake a lot of people make is waiting until something big happens to show up. They'll buy flowers on Valentine's Day or plan a surprise dinner on an anniversary and think that's enough. But intimacy is built in the daily grind, in the ordinary moments. The special occasions are nice, don't get me wrong, but they're not what keep intimacy alive day to day. It's the daily acts of service that matter most. Because that's what makes love feel steady, dependable, real. And let me be clear, it's not about money. Some folks say, "Well, I can't afford to do anything special." But acts of service don't cost a thing. Bringing someone breakfast in bed doesn't cost much. Folding laundry, cleaning up, taking the trash out, running an errand, offering to drive when your partner is tired, those things don't cost, but they mean everything. And sometimes the smallest act can speak the loudest because it says, "I was thinking about you." There's also another layer to this. Acts of service build trust. When your partner sees you consistently showing up for them in small ways, they begin to trust that you'll be there in the big ways too. They know that if you care enough to ease their burden in the everyday, you'll stand with them when life gets heavy. And that trust is the soil intimacy grows in. Without trust, intimacy dies. But with trust, it flourishes. I remember talking to a couple one time who'd been married over 30 years, and I asked them, "What's the secret?" The husband looked at me and said, "Man, it's the small things. She still makes me coffee every morning, and I still fill up her car when it's low. We don't wait until big occasions to show love. We do it daily." And that right there is the truth. You don't build intimacy in one big moment. You build it in 1,000 little ones. Now, let me warn you about something. Acts of service lose their power when they're done with resentment. If you're only doing it to keep score, if you're only serving to get something back, then it's not love, it's manipulation. The power comes when you do it freely, out of genuine care. Because when it comes from the heart, it hits the heart. And when your partner feels that, they'll naturally want to give back. Love done right creates a cycle. Your service makes them want to serve. Their service makes you want to serve. And together you build intimacy that no storm can break. And sometimes acts of service don't just ease burdens, they create joy. Cooking a meal together, surprising your partner by cleaning up the house, taking over a task so they can rest. These things create moments of joy. And joy is a glue in relationships. When you can laugh, relax, and enjoy each other because you've lightened each other's load, that's intimacy in its purest form. So here's the truth. If you want to build deep intimacy without sex, don't underestimate the power of acts of service. Don't overlook the small chances to show up for your partner. Don't wait for special occasions. Serve them in little ways daily. Because every time you do, you're saying, you're worth my effort. You're worth my attention. You're worth my love. And that's the kind of intimacy that lasts a lifetime. One of the most powerful ways to build intimacy without sex is something so simple, most people overlook it. It's eye contact and touch. And I ain't talking about grabbing on somebody. I ain't talking about passion-driven, bedroom-type stuff. I'm talking about the subtle things, the soft things, the everyday kind of contact that lets somebody know, I'm here. I see you. I value you. See, people think intimacy always has to be this big dramatic thing, but sometimes the strongest intimacy lives in the smallest gestures. Looking into somebody's eyes when they're speaking, holding their hand when you're walking into the store, resting your hand on their back when they're stressed. Those little moments can connect two people in a way that words never could. Now, let's start with eye contact. Eye contact is powerful. It's one of the oldest forms of connection human beings got. Before we even spoke words, we communicated with our eyes. You can tell somebody you love them without ever opening your mouth, just by the way you look at them. But too many people have forgotten this in today's world. We're so distracted. Our eyes are on our phones. Our eyes are on the TV. Our eyes are on everything but the person in front of us. And when that happens, intimacy starts to fade. Because when you don't give somebody your eyes, you're really telling them, I don't have time for you. Think about it. How do you feel when you're talking to someone and they keep glancing at their phone, or their eyes keep darting around the room instead of staying on you? You feel unimportant. You feel like your words don't matter. But when someone locks eyes with you, when they hold that gaze and give you their full attention, suddenly you feel seen. You feel valued. That's intimacy. And in a relationship, when you practice that kind of eye contact regularly, you build a bond that goes deeper than surface level connection. Eye contact says, you got all of me right now. And that is rare in this world. Most people are halfway present, halfway listening, halfway paying attention. But when you give your partner your eyes, you're giving them your presence. And presence is one of the greatest gifts you can give in a relationship. It builds safety. It builds trust. It says, you matter enough for me to stop everything and focus just on you. And trust me, that sticks with a person. They may not always remember the exact words you said, but they'll always remember the way you looked at them while they said theirs. Now let's talk about touch. And again, I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about the non-sexual touch that creates closeness in the ordinary moments. Holding hands, giving a hug, rubbing their back, putting your hand on their shoulder when they're upset. These things are powerful. You want to know why? Because touch is reassurance. Touch communicates what words can't. Sometimes when your partner is stressed or hurting, they don't need a long speech. They don't need advice. They just need a hand on their knee that says, I'm here. They need a hug that says, you're safe with me. Science even proves this. Human beings are wired for touch. A gentle touch can lower stress, calm the body, release tension. It's like medicine for the soul. And in a relationship, consistent touch builds a rhythm of closeness. It tells your partner, you're not alone. I want to be near you. And that's intimacy. That's connection that goes way deeper than physical desire. Think about a couple sitting on the couch. They don't have to be kissing. They don't have to be cuddled up in some dramatic way. But maybe their knees are touching, or maybe one person rests their head on the other's shoulder. That small touch creates warmth. It creates togetherness. It says, we belong to each other. And that right there is intimacy without saying a word. And let's not forget how powerful a hug is. You ever had a long, hard day and somebody hugged you? Not a quick, surface level hug, but one of those long, strong, I'm with you hugs. That can change everything. That can take the weight off your shoulders. And in relationships, when you hug your partner like that regularly, you're giving them safety. You're giving them comfort. You're saying, come here. Let me be your place of peace. And intimacy grows in that kind of environment. Here's something people need to understand. Intimacy isn't always built in big conversations or dramatic moments. Sometimes it's in the quiet. Sometimes it's in the way you look at your partner across the room and smile. Sometimes it's the way you reach for their hand without even thinking. Those little habits of eye contact and touch are like threads weaving two people together over time. You don't even realize it, but every time you do it, the bond gets stronger. And let me tell you, touch doesn't always have to be about comfort. Sometimes it's playful. A tap on the shoulder, a little nudge, brushing against them as you walk by. Those things create joy. They remind your partner that even in the middle of the routine, the fun is still alive. And joy, laughter, playfulness, those are all parts of intimacy too. People forget that. They think intimacy is always serious. But no, sometimes it's lighthearted. Sometimes it's the way you touch your partner and make them laugh, the way you look at them and share a joke nobody else would get. That's intimacy too, and it matters. What makes eye contact and touch so powerful is that they don't take extra time. They don't require planning. You don't need money. You don't need a special occasion. You can do them anywhere, anytime. You can hold your partner's hand while walking into the grocery store. You can give them a look across the dinner table that says, I still see you, and I still like what I see. You can rub their back while you're both brushing your teeth. It's simple, it's free, and yet it's priceless. The problem is too many people stop doing these things as time goes on. In the beginning, when love is new, you can't stop looking at each other. You're holding hands everywhere you go. You're touching constantly. But as the years pass, people get comfortable. They stop looking. They stop reaching out. They stop practicing those small habits. And then they wonder why the intimacy feels weaker. It's because you stopped doing the little things that built the bond in the first place. So if you want to keep intimacy strong, go back to the basics. Look at each other. Really look. Hold each other. Really hold. Do it in the small, ordinary moments, not just when passion is running high. Because those little gestures of presence and touch will keep the closeness alive when the passion cools, when life gets busy, when stress tries to build walls between you. And when you practice them daily, they create a foundation of intimacy that no outside force can shake.